What if I told you that one of the most successful female rappers of all time believes she's being hunted, not by fans, not by haters, but by the very industry that made her a star? Picture this, you're at the top of your game, you've broken records, you've changed the culture, you've inspired millions. And then, slowly, quietly, the machine turns against you. Stories start appearing out of nowhere, business deals mysteriously fall through. Your name gets dragged through the mud, while your competitors get celebrated for doing the exact same things you do. Coincidence? Bad luck? Or something far more sinister? For over a decade, Nicki Minaj has dominated hip-hop like few women ever have. But lately, something's shifted. The whispers have gotten louder, the attacks more coordinated, the timing too perfect to ignore. And when her fans started connecting the dots, they found a pattern that sent shockwaves through the entire music industry. Names like Jay-Z, companies like Roc Nation, allegations of calculated sabotage, claims of industry blackballing, and a war playing out in plain sight that most people don't even realize is happening. Today, we're diving deep into one of hip-hop's most controversial theories, the alleged conspiracy to dethrone Nicki Minaj. We'll examine the evidence, hear from both sides, and let you decide, is this real or is this just paranoia? Because if even a fraction of what we're about to uncover is true, then the battle for hip-hop's throne isn't just about music anymore. It's about power, control, and who gets to decide which voices get heard. So buckle up. This isn't your typical celebrity drama. This goes way deeper than you think. Let's get into it.
What I was told was that allegedly Jay-Z and Roc Nation is behind this. Jay-Z and Roc Nation has been after Nicki for a while, especially after she released that song Bigfoot. But even long before then, there had been beef, which I did not realize. So, from what I'm being told, Jay-Z was trying to get her arrested, but of course legally. That's why they waited till she was overseas to do this to her. Roc Nation wanted to make sure that when she got arrested or apprehended for whatever, because in the industry they can get you set up with all kinds of charges. All right. It said that they wanted to make sure her husband was not with her because her husband is her protection, which we know that. Roc Nation is looking to bankrupt Nicki. And this is why there has been several stories planted about her being broke, going broke, or needing to constantly tour because she's supposed to be broke. This was absolute setup and sabotage. And if I was Nicki, I would fire my whole team. Fire the whole security team. There is a mole. Get rid of them all. There is a mole. Because now that I think about it, Roc Nation got Mig. The only competition that Nicki has is Mig. Let's keep it real. It ain't Lotto. It ain't Mocha Latte. What's the other rappers out here? There's nobody. It ain't Cardi. I know y'all wanted it to be Cardi. It ain't Cardi. She was absolutely set up. Also, Tory Lanez was supposed to sign the Roc Nation first, and the second option was Meg. See? But y'all remember when Tory Lanez's daddy said, "This is Roc Nation," we all thought he was crazy.
Nicki Minaj.
Before we dive into the conspiracy theories, we need to understand who Nicki Minaj really is, because her story makes everything that follows make sense. Anaka Tanya Mirage Petty, known to the world as Nicki Minaj, didn't just enter the rap game. She kicked down the door, rewrote the rules, and built an empire that would make most male rappers jealous. We're talking about a woman who went from mixtapes to mansions, from the streets of Queens to the top of the Billboard charts. She gave us iconic alter egos like Roman Zolanski and Barbie. She delivered verse after verse that left the competition speechless. She became the first female rapper to have 100 entries on the Billboard Hot 100. But here's what made Nicki different. She never played the game by their rules. While other artists smiled and stayed silent, Nicki spoke her mind. When executives told her to tone it down, she turned it up. When they said female rappers couldn't sell, she proved them wrong over and over again. And when they tried to control her narrative, she took to social media and controlled it herself. This independence, this refusal to be managed or manipulated, made her powerful. But in an industry built on control, power makes you dangerous. For years, everything seemed unstoppable. The hits kept coming. The tours sold out. The influence was undeniable. Nicki wasn't just a rapper. She was a cultural phenomenon. But then slowly at first, things started to change. The same media outlets that once celebrated her began writing different stories. Headlines shifted from queen of rap to controversial diva. Articles questioned her attitude. Reports claimed she was difficult to work with. Her confidence was reframed as arrogance. Her honesty became drama. And here's the strange part. Nothing about Nicki had actually changed. She was the same person doing the same things she'd always done. But suddenly the narrative around her was toxic. Fans noticed. They started asking questions. Why was Nicki being treated differently? Why were her wins downplayed while her mistakes were amplified? Why did every success seem to be followed by a scandal? The answers they found led them down a rabbit hole that would expose what they believe is one of the music industry's darkest secrets. Now let's talk about Cardi B. And before anyone comes for me in the comments, this isn't about comparing talent or tearing anyone down. Both women are incredibly successful. Both have earned their place in hip-hop. This is about the timing, the patterns, and the business decisions that happened around their careers. Cardi B's rise was nothing short of meteoric. One minute she's a reality TV star with a growing Instagram following, the next she's topping charts with Bodak Yellow and being hailed as the savior of female rap. The success was real, the talent was undeniable, but what caught people's attention was how fast the industry machine mobilized around her. Within months of her breakthrough, Cardi had major brand deals, magazine covers, and radio play that took other artists years to achieve. She was everywhere. Talk shows, award shows, fashion week. The marketing push was massive and incredibly coordinated. Again, success alone isn't suspicious. Artists blow up. That's the music business. But here's where it gets interesting. The same year Cardi exploded onto the scene, 2017 into 2018, was the exact same period when Nicki's public image started taking serious hits. Suddenly, every entertainment blog was writing comparison pieces. Is Cardi B the new Nicki Minaj? Has Cardi B dethroned the queen of rap? Why Cardi B is what female rap needs now. The narrative wasn't just celebrating Cardi, it was positioning her as Nicki's replacement. And this is where fans started connecting dots that made their blood run cold. They noticed that major publications would praise Cardi for the exact same behaviors they criticized Nicki for. Cardi's outspokenness was authentic, while Nicki's was aggressive. Cardi's confidence was inspiring, while Nicki's was egotistical. Cardi's feuds were standing up for herself, while Nicki's were unnecessary drama. The double standard was glaring, and it felt orchestrated. Then came the bombshell theory. What if Cardi's rise wasn't just organic success? What if powerful people in the industry were actively grooming her to take Nicki's place? The name that kept coming up in these discussions, Roc Nation. Roc Nation, for those who don't know, is the entertainment company founded by Jay-Z in 2008. It's a powerhouse, managing some of the biggest names in music, sports, and entertainment. When Roc Nation backs an artist, doors open. Opportunities appear. Success becomes almost inevitable. Fans started digging into the timeline. They noticed that several artists who seemed to be positioned against Nicki, whether in public feuds or media narratives, had connections to Roc Nation or its affiliates. Megan Thee Stallion signed to Roc Nation management. Cardi B, while not officially signed to Roc Nation at first, industry insiders noted close business relationships and collaborative efforts. The theory evolved. What if there was a coordinated effort to shift power in female rap? What if the plan was to elevate new artists while systematically dismantling Nicki's dominance? One viral tweet summed it up. They're not just building up Cardi, they're tearing down Nicki to make room. Now we need to be clear here. There's no smoking gun, no leaked emails, no executive admissions. But the circumstantial evidence was enough to convince millions of fans that something deeper was happening. And Nicki herself, she was paying attention. And she wasn't going to stay quiet. The tension between Nicki and Cardi wasn't new, but in 2018, it exploded into something the hip-hop world had never quite seen before. It started with subliminal shots and songs. Then came the cryptic social media posts, the likes on shady comments, the strategic timing of releases, and then the infamous New York Fashion Week incident where things literally got physical. But what happened next is what really matters for our story. After that confrontation, something shifted in Nicki's approach. She stopped being subtle. She started speaking openly about what she believed was happening behind the scenes. In interviews on her Queen radio show and across social media, Nicki began calling out what she saw as industry manipulation. She talked about how certain executives had it out for her, how stories were being planted to make her look bad, how her competitors were getting artificial boosts while she was being held back. She didn't always name names directly, but her fans didn't need her to. Every time she mentioned industry plants or industry manipulation, the Barbs, as her devoted fan base, connected it straight back to Roc Nation. Nicki spoke about meetings where she was told to fall in line, about business opportunities that vanished mysteriously, about feeling like she was fighting a battle on multiple fronts, not just against other artists, but against invisible forces pulling strings behind the scenes. One particularly revealing moment came during a Queen radio episode where Nicki said, "They want you to think you're going crazy. They want you to doubt yourself. But I know what I see. I know what's happening." That statement hit different. Because that's the thing about conspiracies. They work best when the target starts looking paranoid. The more you speak out, the crazier you seem. The more you fight back, the more difficult you appear. It's a perfect trap. Stay silent and let them destroy you, or speak up and be labeled unstable. Nicki chose to speak, and her fans mobilized. The Barbs became digital investigators, documenting every suspicious coincidence, every media hit piece, every business move that seemed designed to undermine their queen. They created threads, timelines, and analyses that would make conspiracy theorists jealous. And you know what? Some of what they found was genuinely disturbing. They documented how negative Nicki stories would mysteriously trend right before major releases or achievements, how certain media outlets seemed to have coordinated talking points against her, how award snubs happened in categories she should have dominated. They noticed that whenever Nicki had a big win, a successful album drop, a sold-out tour, a chart record, within days, sometimes hours, a scandal would emerge to overshadow it. The pattern was too consistent to ignore. Meanwhile, Cardi's camp was celebrating unprecedented success. But the online warfare between the two fan bases, the Barbs and the Bardi gang, reached levels of toxicity that went beyond normal stan culture. It wasn't just about music anymore. It felt personal. It felt orchestrated. It felt like two armies were being weaponized against each other, while the generals watched from above. And in the middle of all this chaos, more names started being thrown around. Executives at Atlantic Records, radio programmers, playlist curators, and at the center of many theories, Jay-Z and Roc Nation. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The allegations against Jay-Z and Roc Nation. Now, I need to be extremely clear here. Nothing we're discussing is confirmed. There are no lawsuits, no official investigations. No one from Roc Nation or Jay-Z's camp has been proven to do anything illegal or unethical in relation to Nicki Minaj. But the rumors and theories have become so widespread, so detailed, and so persistent that they deserve examination. The theory goes like this. Roc Nation, as one of the most powerful entertainment companies in the world, has been strategically positioning itself to dominate every corner of the music industry. Part of that strategy allegedly involves controlling the narrative around who succeeds and who doesn't. Fans point to what they see as a pattern. Roc Nation signs or partners with artists who could potentially compete with or replace established stars who don't fall in line with industry expectations. In the female rap space specifically, they note that Roc Nation has had connections with several artists who've been positioned, intentionally or not, as alternatives to Nicki Minaj. Megan Thee Stallion signed with Roc Nation management in 2019, right as her career was exploding. She quickly became a dominant force in female rap, and notably had her own very public issues with Nicki. Then there's the question of Cardi B. While Cardi wasn't signed directly to Roc Nation initially, industry watchers noted business relationships, collaborative opportunities, and strategic alignments that suggested coordination. The timeline that fans constructed is chilling in its precision. 2017-2018, Cardi's breakthrough year. Media begins positioning her as Nicki's rival. 2018-2019, multiple public incidents between Nicki and various artists. Each incident gets massive media coverage that generally frames Nicki negatively. 2019-2020, Megan Thee Stallion's rise. Another artist positioned in the female rap conversation, another Roc Nation connection. 2021, Nicki takes a break for family. In her absence, the narrative becomes female rap has moved on from Nicki Minaj. 2022 present, Nicki's comeback is strong, but every win is accompanied by manufactured controversy. Fans also point to specific incidents they believe were too coincidental. Nicki's tour delays and venue issues that seem to happen at suspiciously convenient times for competitors. Media leaks about Nicki's personal life that always dropped right before major career moments. Streaming numbers and playlist placements that didn't match actual public interest and fan engagement. Award show snubs that defied logic and viewer expectations. Legal issues and international travel problems that fans believe were timed for maximum damage. One theory that gained significant traction involved Nicki's arrest at an Amsterdam airport in 2024. Fans believe the timing, right in the middle of a successful tour, was too perfect. They point to the fact that similar situations involving other artists are handled quietly, but Nicki's incident was immediately publicized and sensationalized. Coincidence? Maybe, but when coincidences pile up year after year, people start looking for patterns. The most explosive claim is this, that Jay-Z and Roc Nation allegedly view Nicki as a threat, not just because of her success, but because she can't be controlled. She owns her masters. She speaks her mind. She doesn't need their infrastructure to succeed. And in an industry built on dependence, independence is dangerous. Again, there's no hard proof of any coordinated campaign, but the circumstantial evidence was enough to convince millions that something wasn't right. Just when the conspiracy theories seemed to be dismissed as fan delusion, an unexpected voice entered the conversation, and he had his own history of claiming industry persecution. Katt Williams, the legendary comedian known for speaking uncomfortable truths about Hollywood, reportedly expressed support for Nicki's claims about industry sabotage. Now, Katt Williams has his own complicated history with the entertainment industry. He's spoken openly for years about being blackballed in Hollywood after refusing to compromise his values or participate in what he called the games they play. He's talked about losing opportunities, being portrayed negatively in the media, and facing systematic pushback after speaking out against powerful figures. So when Nicki's claims about industry manipulation started circulating, Katt apparently saw familiar patterns. According to reports and social media discussions, Katt and Nicki have had private conversations about their shared experiences, about what happens when you don't play by industry rules, when you refuse to be controlled, when you speak truth to power. Katt's support mattered because he wasn't a fan or a stan. He was someone with decades in entertainment who had no personal stake in Nicki's career. He was simply recognizing a pattern he'd lived through himself. His involvement sparked a broader conversation. Are there certain celebrities who get marked for speaking out? Is there an actual industry mechanism for suppressing voices that won't conform? Katt's famous interviews where he discusses Hollywood's gatekeepers suddenly seemed more relevant. His warnings about what happens to artists who know too much or won't sell their soul took on new meaning in the context of Nicki's situation. One particularly viral moment came when Katt allegedly said something to the effect of, "They do the same thing to everyone who won't bow down. They make you look crazy. They turn people against you. They make your life difficult until you either give up or give in." Whether or not Katt and Nicki actually had deep conversations about this, the fact that multiple high-profile figures were independently claiming similar experiences of industry persecution gave the theories more credibility. It wasn't just paranoid fans anymore. It was successful entertainers from different industries, all describing the same system of control and punishment, and that made people pay attention in a whole new way. As with everything in modern culture, the internet became the battlefield where this war was fought. The division wasn't just deep, it was absolute. On one side, the Barbs and other believers in the conspiracy theory were convinced Nicki was exposing real corruption. They saw her as a warrior standing alone against billion-dollar forces trying to erase her legacy. Their arguments were detailed and passionate. Every time Nicki wins, there's suddenly a scandal. They're trying to drain her mentally and financially until she gives up. The same executives who claim they support women in hip-hop are the ones orchestrating her downfall because she won't let them control her. Look at the pattern. Look at the timing. This isn't coincidence. This is warfare. They created massive documentation projects, spreadsheets tracking negative articles, timelines correlating Nicki's successes with subsequent controversies, analyses of streaming data anomalies, and catalogs of suspicious incidents. Some of this research was genuinely impressive, professional-level investigative work being done by fans who just wanted to prove their queen wasn't crazy. On the other side were skeptics who believed Nicki's ego and paranoia were getting the best of her, that she was projecting blame instead of accepting that the music industry had simply evolved, and she was struggling to evolve with it. Their counter-arguments were equally passionate. Cardi's success doesn't mean there's a conspiracy. It means she connected with a new generation. Nicki can't accept that she's not the only queen anymore. This is about ego, not sabotage. Maybe if she spent less time on Twitter fighting and more time making music, she wouldn't need conspiracy theories to explain her struggles. They pointed out that Nicki still had massive success, still sold out tours, still topped charts. If there was really a coordinated effort to destroy her, wouldn't she actually be destroyed? The debate raged across every platform. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Reddit. Comment sections became war zones. Think pieces were written from every angle. Career analysts, music journalists, and cultural critics all weighed in. What was fascinating was how the argument transcended just Nicki and Cardi. It became a broader conversation about how the music industry treats women, especially successful women, whether industries actually do have mechanisms for controlling narratives, the role of media in building and destroying careers, fan culture and its power to shape reality, the line between justified suspicion and paranoid conspiracy thinking. Some observers noted that maybe the truth was somewhere in the middle, that Nicki faced real industry bias and coordinated opposition, but also contributed to her problems with some of her own choices and reactions, that the music industry absolutely has power structures that can be weaponized against artists, but not every setback is a conspiracy. That Cardi's success can be both genuine and aided by strategic industry support that Nicki didn't receive. But nuance doesn't do well on the internet. You're either with the conspiracy or against it. You're either Team Nicki or Team Cardi. There's no middle ground in stan culture. And maybe that's exactly what the industry wants. Fans so busy fighting each other that they don't see the puppet strings being pulled above them all. Here's where we need to zoom out and talk about something uncomfortable. The music industry has a long documented history of doing exactly what Nicki claims is being done to her. This isn't the first time these allegations have been made. Not even close. Throughout music history, we've seen artists claim they were pushed aside once they became too powerful, too outspoken, or too independent. Some of these claims were later validated. Others remain disputed. But the pattern exists. Consider how the industry works. Labels invest massive amounts in building artists. They create brands, secure deals, establish relationships. The artist becomes valuable intellectual property. But when that property starts acting too independently, when they start controlling their own masters, questioning contracts, speaking out about exploitation, suddenly the investment becomes a liability. At that point, the industry has two options: negotiate with an empowered artist who might demand fair terms, or invest in a new artist who's still manageable, moldable, and grateful for the opportunity. Historically, the industry often chooses option two. We've seen it in rock music, where legendary bands were suddenly portrayed as past their prime, while younger, more controllable acts were promoted. We've seen it in pop, where powerful female artists who spoke their minds found themselves gradually replaced in the media narrative by newer, easier stars. And we've definitely seen it in hip-hop, where artists who challenged the establishment found their careers mysteriously stalling, while more industry-friendly rappers got pushed to the forefront. Nicki Minaj fits a very specific profile that historically triggers this kind of treatment. She's financially independent. She doesn't need the industry the way newer artists do. 2. She owns her masters and controls her music. 3. She has a direct relationship with her fans through social media. 4. She speaks publicly about industry practices and unfair treatment. 5. She refuses to compromise her artistic vision for commercial considerations. 6. She's knowledgeable about the business side and can't be easily manipulated. These characteristics, while admirable, make her dangerous to an industry built on control. There's also a gender dynamic that can't be ignored. The music industry has always struggled with powerful women, especially in hip-hop. There's often an unspoken rule: you can have one queen at a time, but not multiple. When male rappers coexist at the top, it's called healthy competition. When women do it, the industry and media force them into opposition. This Highlander approach to female success, there can be only one, creates an environment where Nicki's very existence as a dominant force makes her a target once the industry decides it's time for a changing of the guard. Several music industry insiders, speaking anonymously over the years, have described exactly this kind of strategic artist replacement. How labels will quietly reduce promotion for an established artist while ramping up for a newer one. How media relationships can be leveraged to shift narrative attention. How radio play and playlist placements can be adjusted to favor one artist over another. How award show politics can be manipulated to anoint new stars while snubbing established ones. None of this is illegal. It's all just business. But it's the kind of coordinated business effort that, to the artist experiencing it, feels exactly like a conspiracy. And here's the really disturbing part. It works because it's deniable. Every individual action has a legitimate business explanation. It's only when you step back and see the pattern that the coordination becomes clear. So is this what's happening to Nicki? Maybe, maybe not. But it's definitely happened to others before her. So here we are, thousands of words later, examining one of hip-hop's most controversial theories. What's the truth? Honestly, we may never know for certain. There's no smoking gun, no leaked memo from Roc Nation saying destroy Nicki Minaj, no executive confession, no whistleblower with irrefutable proof. What we have instead is a pattern, a series of coincidences that may be exactly that, coincidences, or maybe pieces of a much larger picture that most people aren't meant to see. What's undeniable is this. Nicki Minaj, one of the most successful female rappers in history, believes she's being systematically targeted by powerful forces in the music industry. And millions of fans, after examining the evidence, believe her. Whether they're right or wrong, the fact that the theory is this plausible tells us something important about how the music industry operates. It tells us that artists can be so abused and manipulated that claiming conspiracy sounds reasonable. It tells us that the industry's treatment of powerful women is problematic enough that these accusations resonate. It tells us that fans have witnessed enough suspicious patterns that they're willing to believe their favorite artist is at war with billion-dollar corporations. And maybe that's the real story here. Not whether Jay-Z or Roc Nation specifically targeted Nicki Minaj, but that the music industry has created an environment where such targeting is not only possible, but expected. Think about what we've explored today. An industry with the power and motivation to replace artists who become too independent. A pattern of media manipulation that consistently benefits some artists while harming others. Business practices that, while legal, can be coordinated to undermine careers. A female rapper who refuses to be controlled, facing obstacles that seem too precisely timed to be random. Powerful management companies with the resources to influence everything from radio play to media coverage. A fan base that has documented years of suspicious incidents with remarkable detail. Other artists claiming similar experiences of industry persecution. Whether you believe the conspiracy or not, all of these elements are real. They exist, and they create an environment where Nicki's claims, whether true or not, are frighteningly plausible. There's also a deeper, more uncomfortable question at the heart of this story. What's the cost of being an outspoken, independent woman in an industry built by and for powerful men? Nicki Minaj changed hip-hop. She broke barriers. She inspired millions of women to be bold, to be confident, to demand respect. She proved that female rappers could dominate commercially and artistically. But maybe that success came with a price. Maybe the industry was willing to celebrate her as long as she was building their empire. But the moment she started building her own, keeping her own profits, controlling her own narrative, maybe that's when she became expendable. Or maybe she's just experiencing the natural evolution of fame. Maybe new stars rise and old stars fade. Maybe it's not a conspiracy, just the inevitable changing of generations. Maybe her paranoia is her worst enemy, not Jay-Z or Roc Nation. The truth probably lies somewhere in that gray area between nothing unusual is happening and there's an organized conspiracy to destroy her. The music industry absolutely has power structures. It absolutely prioritizes profit over artist welfare. It absolutely has mechanisms for controlling narratives. And yes, it absolutely has pushed aside artists who became problematic to manage. But does that mean there's a specific coordinated campaign against Nicki Minaj, orchestrated by Roc Nation? That's the question each person has to answer for themselves, based on the evidence. What's clear is that Nicki isn't going quietly. Every post, every song, every interview shows an artist who refuses to be erased. And that refusal, that defiance, might be her real power. Because here's the thing about conspiracies to silence someone. They only work if the person actually stays silent. Nicki's out here talking, her fans are investigating, the conversation is happening, millions of people are questioning the industry practices that enable this kind of alleged manipulation. And maybe that awareness, that questioning, that refusal to accept the official narrative, maybe that's what actually threatens the system. Not Nicki's music or her success, but her willingness to say something's wrong here and have millions of people believe her. So where does this leave us? Nicki Minaj is still here, still making music, still selling out shows, still commanding attention. Whether she's fighting against a real conspiracy or battling her own demons, she's still fighting. Cardi B is still successful, still making hits, still breaking records. The industry keeps spinning. The machine keeps running. And somewhere in the middle of it all, the truth sits, complicated, messy, and probably more nuanced than either side wants to admit. What do you think? After everything we've explored today, where do you land? Is Nicki Minaj exposing a real industry conspiracy? Is Roc Nation really pulling strings behind the scenes? Or is this just the paranoid thinking of an artist struggling to accept that her era of dominance is evolving? Are the coincidences too perfect to be random? Or are fans seeing patterns where none exist? Is the media treatment of Nicki evidence of coordinated sabotage? Or just the natural scrutiny that comes with being a controversial figure? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And I mean, really share what you think. Are you Team Nicki, believing the conspiracy? Team Skeptic, thinking it's all in her head? Or are you somewhere in the middle, seeing truth on both sides? This conversation is far from over. In fact, it's probably just beginning. Because one thing's for certain, in the music industry, what you see on the surface is rarely the full story. There are always layers, always agendas, always power plays happening behind the curtain. The question isn't whether the music industry manipulates narratives and controls artists. We know it does. The question is Nicki Minaj the latest victim, or is she teaching us all how to fight back? If you found this deep dive valuable, hit that subscribe button and drop a like. We're just getting started exploring the hidden truths of the entertainment industry. Until next time, stay woke, stay questioning, and remember, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you. Peace.